Good afternoon. Thank you again for joining us. We're here at the Emergency Operations Center at the City of Calgary, here with another update on the 16th Avenue water main break. Today, providing your update will be Mayor Joyti Gondek. We'll hear from Calgary Emergency Management Agency Chief Sue Henry. We will move on to Director of Capital Priorities and Investment, Francois Bouchard. And joining us also is Chris Collier, the Director of Occupational Health and Safety. And we'll turn it over to Mayor Gondek to start. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Oki Daranastada Ambawastich Tanse, and good afternoon, everyone. Last night, there were 2 workers injured during the repair of the water feeder main. They were immediately taken to hospital. 911 was called immediately, and I'm happy to tell you that neither are in critical condition. They did sustain serious injuries. One's been treated and released, and the other remains in hospital. I want to thank these individuals for the hard work that they have been doing and want them to know that we are thinking of them and their families. After a work stoppage and a safety inspection, Alberta Occupational Health and Safety has given the go-ahead to have welding continue on site. That was the activity that was looked into with the inspection. Crews are doing a safety review and are expected to return to their work this afternoon, and Director Collier will have more information about the process that it took to make sure that it was safe to continue with this work. We've learned that more of the feeder main has been scanned by robots, and this is to ensure the integrity of the rest of the pipe. Director Bouchard will have more information about the work that's being done to get the feeder main back up and running. And there is a concerning trend in water use in our city, and we need all of you to keep up the efforts to conserve water. Yesterday, we used the most water since Saturday, and that is taking us far above the safety threshold, and our supply is lower than it has been in the last few days. This morning, we were at a place where we really didn't have enough of a cushion for life-saving efforts like those in hospitals or in firefighting. Some of you may have heard about a 2-alarm fire last night in Woodbine. Chief Henry will have more information for you about how much water was used in that firefighting effort, and I want to thank the Calgary Fire Department for their quick response to that emergency. Now, it's been a week since the city woke up to water conservation requirements, a week since we had that alarm in the morning letting us know that we had our water supply compromised. Calgary, I need you to continue those efforts. It's only if you and I keep banding together and reducing the amount of water that you're using that we will be in the kind of situation we need to be in. We need to ensure that emergency crews are able to do their jobs, and we can only do that if we continue to save water. With that, let me turn things over to Calgary Emergency Management Agency Chief Sue Henry.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon, everyone. Today marks 1 week since we activated our municipal emergency plan and opened the Emergency Operations Center in response to the water main feed break on 16th Avenue. I want to thank all of our CEMA agency members that are downstairs working diligently to restore the City of Calgary's water supply. Today is a good reminder that work needs to happen quickly, but it also needs to happen safely. We have Director Christopher Collier with us today, who will give you an update on last night's incident. I wanted to touch quickly on how important it is for us to continue to limit our water use so we can save that water for critical firefighting efforts if it is needed. Last night, the Calgary Fire Department was called out to a 2-alarm fire in the community of Woodbine. Due to the quick response efforts and early intervention of Calgary Fire, approximately 100,000 liters of water was used to extinguish the fire. On an average basis, this kind of fire could require 600,000 liters or up to 1.5 million liters to put out. So thank you to our fire department that was able to respond very quickly to get that situation under control. This is a great reminder for us to ensure our first responders have the water that they need to respond to public health and safety situations while we're all making this effort to conserve water. Some ongoing disruptions continue in some of the city's services. Our recreation facilities, weight rooms, and fitness rooms remain open, along with non-water-based programs, including our art centers. Pools and showers remain closed, and swimming lessons are canceled. If you've had your rec program canceled, you will be notified via email and you will be issued a refund. Arenas also remain closed, except those that have dry pads, which are used for programming like ball hockey. There is an ongoing closure of some sections of the Bow River pathway, along with the Edworthy North parking lot that started at noon today. During this time, local traffic is still being allowed, and we're aiming to have the parking lot reopened for Monday morning. The opening of our city wading pools and spray parks that typically open for us on Father's Day weekend will be postponed until after the water restrictions have been lifted. You will also see our city crews watering the golf courses, particularly the greens and the new trees. This water that they're using is non-potable water. It is not suitable for drinking, and it does not impact the city's water supply. A quick update for you today on the numbers we're seeing from bylaw and 311. To date, we've received 1,250 calls related to water misuse. The majority have been resolved, with 70 remaining calls today. Related to fire bans, we've had a total of 90 calls. 6 of those calls are still being addressed today. Since Thursday, there have been 432 conversations with Calgarians providing education on water use and the fire ban, followed by 376 written warnings, 2 violation tickets for water misuse, and 1 ticket was issued related to the fire ban. The 2 water misuse tickets were issued to private construction contractors. 311 continues to experience a little bit higher than normal call volume. Our wait time currently sits at 12 minutes, and we continue to work on bringing on additional staff to provide support over the weekend for this call load. I will now pass to Director Christopher Collier, our Director of Occupational Health and Safety.
Good afternoon, everyone. Just a little bit more detail on those 2 injured workers that we spoke about earlier. At approximately 9:45 last night, 2 workers on site, 1 employee and 1 contractor, involved in the welding repair were both injured. Both workers were transported to hospital for medical care, and the site work was paused during the safety investigation. A contractor was welding to install the metal collar on the new section of pipe using what's called a come-along system, and while ratcheting the come-along system, a chain broke, resulting in the injuries. 911 was called and EMS was dispatched to the work site, and both workers were transported to hospital. 1 worker was in serious condition, non-life-threatening, and the other was in stable, non-life-threatening condition and is now released. Alberta OHS attended the site this morning as part of the safety investigation. At approximately 10:40 a.m. this morning, OHS Alberta was satisfied that the welding work could continue, which was the subject of their investigation. There are safety protocols for returning the site to operations, and this has been underway since the clearance was provided by OHS Alberta at 10:40. We continue to work with OHS Alberta for any questions and corrective actions we may see going forward. This is part of our after-action review process, as we do as part of any regular operation. Keeping our employees safe is a core value at the city. It's part of who we are as an organization. And with that, I'd like to hand over to Director Bouchard for more details. Thank you.
Thank you and good afternoon. At this point, I'd like to provide an update on our repair work in progress. As you've already heard, we did have an incident on site last night that unfortunately caused injury to 2 of our workers. We are thinking about them today and hope for quick and full recovery. While we understand how anxious everyone is to have the feeder main repaired, worker safety is our top priority. Due to last night's incidents, we have temporarily paused work on the site. This kind of pause is standard after a serious safety incident. It allows us to take care of our people, review our safety measures, make any necessary changes, and protect other workers while we finish this job. Before the safety incident yesterday, we did make progress. The replacement pipe is now in place, and the robot continues its inspection of the rest of the 1950 millimeter feeder main, and we have now inspected more than 4 kilometers, which is about 80% of that section of pipe. The work that we're doing now is, before we start working again, we do a safety review. When a safety review is complete and we're confident that safety issues have been addressed, we will return to our repair work. We expect to resume welding early this afternoon. We are also going to continue to collect and analyze information to help us determine what happened to cause this failure and to establish the state of the rest of the feeder main. We have moved the damaged pipe off-site, and we will continue to examine it for more information. I want to stress that it will take us time to determine the exact cause. We have a team of engineers analyzing and interpreting the data, including both experts, external experts, as well as our city team. When that information is available, we will provide further details. But for now, our focus remains on the repair, crew safety, and our path to restoring water. And at this point, I'd like to hand it back to the mayor.
Thank you to the crews who are working on site. Thank you for all the folks that are working here within the Emergency Operations Center. A very big thank you to the tradespeople, the engineers, the scientists, the communicators, and everyone who's working hard to restore service and get messaging out to Calgarians. I also want to thank the communities that surround our city. You have been working as diligently as we have to reduce your water consumption, and everyone in Calgary, really, we appreciate your efforts. And I know you're getting frustrated, and I know you're getting tired of being asked to do more. And many of you are saying, why should I do my part when others are not? I would encourage you to keep having those conversations with members of your family, with your neighbors, your friends, the people you work with. If you're hearing someone who's not taking this seriously, please take a moment to remind them that we have to be doing this together because it affects all of us within Calgary as well as our surrounding region. This is not a joke. It is certainly not a conspiracy, and it is serious. So continue to have those conversations and remind people about why we have to continue to save water. The grade 6s that I spoke with at City Hall School over the past week certainly understand it. They've all been giving me examples of taking shorter showers or not taking them at all. They have been talking about what their families are doing in terms of making sandwiches instead of a big meal, or barbecuing, or using paper plates. They get it. And I think all of us understand that if they can do it, we certainly can. We want to make sure that when firefighters connect to a hydrant, like they had to do in Woodbine last night, that a full flow of water comes out so that we can keep everyone safe and protected. And to the 2 individuals that were hurt last night, please know that we are all thinking of you, and we greatly appreciate all of your efforts to serve us at this time when the city needed you. With that, let me turn it to Sherry to take questions from media.
This is a question for the mayor. This morning you talked about communication and how you can't compare. I guess some people were saying, why is the communication different between the 2013 flood and now? Well, why did you see that as an important thing to make clear today?
I think it was an important clarification because that question has been posed. It's been asked. There seemed to be a different strategy in terms of communication during the flood. Why is that not being used this time around? And I think it was critical for people to understand that during a state of local emergency, there is a closer engagement between members of administration and members of council. That's why there was a different flow of information to the mayor in 2013 at that time. Right now, this situation is not a state of local emergency, and for that reason, it is our operations teams and Chief Sue Henry who take the lead on this. We are looped in as council as information becomes available to us, but the lead on this is the chief and the operations crews.
So are you saying, let's say some of the communication, let's say difficulties which you've acknowledged already in the past, is the cause of that the fact that we don't have a state of emergency? Or is the cause of that because people just weren't good at communicating, or how are they related, sort of? Like how much of, if there were any communication difficulties or, you know, messaging, how much of that was because of the state, not having a state emergency, and how much of it was because of other factors which you might bring up?
I think it's really important to recognize that we have really good people trying very hard to get us back to a level where our water is restored to normal. They are working around the clock. They are working in shifts and relieving each other and coming in and trying to pick up what happened in the shift before and carry on with it. And that applies whether you are looking at the folks that are in the trench trying to fix the pipe, or you are looking at our communicators and our teams that are providing them with information. I'm not interested in blaming anyone for any type of a communications failure. I'm the mayor. It's my responsibility to communicate with Calgarians. And when that wasn't sufficient, I stepped up and asked our CAO, David Duckworth, how we could make it better. And we have strived to get information out to you in a timely manner since then. This is not about blaming anyone. We have great people that are trying to get you all the information that you want and need. Sometimes we can't get it out to you as quickly as we want to because there's two things happening. We're trying to mitigate a critical situation, and we are trying to address questions that are not part of that immediate situation.
Thank you. Scott?
I had a couple of questions, I think, for Chris, but I don't know, maybe Francois. I know that work is ongoing on the site 24/7. Can you just give us a bit of detail in terms of how many people are working at the site and just the turnover in workers? Are they working like 8-hour shifts, 12-hour shifts?
Yeah, thank you for the question. I will hand over to Francois, but I'll start by saying that yes, it's a 24/7 operation, but people are not working 24/7. They're on shift work, fatigue, and bringing experts is carefully managed as the site progresses. So that's a big safety consideration, is to make sure that the people are working their shifts, which by the way is a normal practice at any rate. When we work on these large jobs, especially the 24/7 ones, we work in shifts so that we can carefully manage fatigue and bring in fresh crews and they get the rest they need between shifts.
I'm sorry, just the number of people on site?
I might have to defer to Francois. If you have any numbers of staff.
Okay, and that's good because I have another question for Francois.
Unfortunately, I don't have that number for you, but we're always reviewing the number on staff and making sure that we only have the absolute necessary individuals there.
Okay, and also I listened back to what you had said yesterday in terms of the pipe and about the work that had gone on in advance in terms of monitoring conditions. What causes these wires to snap?
So there's a number of different processes that can influence the integrity of the reinforcement wires. One of which is simply corrosion of the pipes over time, and that is then related back to soil conditions. But that's only one of many factors that could lead to that outcome.
Okay, and just to close that loop, are you concerned that could pose an issue for other wires on this feeder main elsewhere on this line?
So we're always concerned with our infrastructure and how it's performing. And this experience has led us to do further tests to look at the condition of the pipe, and that's what the robot is all about in terms of putting it within the drain pipe now that it has been drained for the repair. So we're always interested in how much additional information we can get regarding the condition of the pipe in our infrastructure.
Thanks very much. Global?
How does last night's incident affect the timelines you folks are working with to get this repair up, considering the pipe is now in the ground?
That's a great question, so thank you for asking it. And we always take worker safety extremely seriously. So stopping and addressing the safety issues was a must. There's no doubt about that. And we also know that every hour counts in our response. But yes, it will impact our timelines, and we're currently assessing what does that look like. But what we will continue to do is do the work safely.
Yes. I do have a question about Shoaldays Park. I had somebody reach out and call me and ask about the closure of Shoaldays Park. Why is that area still closed? I know we have some damage in that area. What does the situation look like in Shoaldays and perhaps even the Edwardy parking lot and the Boulder pathway area? What's going on there with those closures?
You bet. So the question was around why is there a closure in Shoaldays Park and what does that look like? And a little bit of information on the Edwardy Park parking lot. So the crews are still evaluating the conditions of Shoaldays. When the water feeder main initially broke, a lot of the water headed over towards the Shoaldays Park area, and there was a lot of damage done in that park. So our crews are currently on site evaluating that damage, coming up with a remediation plan so we can get that park online as soon as we can. But until that work is done, we have had to close the park to be able to do that assessment. Your question on what's happening in North Edworthy Park, we've got lines and water lines down there, and it's part of the flushing operation that's being done to work on the repair work. So there is hoses essentially in that area that have shut the parking lot.
Thanks very much. This question's for the mayor. I know you've talked about, like, we've seen the water use increase, you've talked about the importance of talking to your friends and families. But as the city, how do you kind of address that compliance fatigue and motivate Calgarians to continue to conserve water a week in when maybe they're seeing the impacts less and less?
I really appreciate the question of how do you motivate people to keep up their water sharing or saving measures when it's been a week. I can tell you this. I woke up this morning really wanting to wash my hair. Took a good look and thought, well, I'd really like to do that, but I'm not going to. So, I skipped the shower today, took the bird bath, as it were, and, I understand that it's tough. I'm not immune from this like all of you are. I've had to put Post-it notes on the flushers on our toilets to remind everybody that if you don't have to flush, don't flush. I've had to do a lot of things around the house, especially putting Post-its on taps to say, think about this before you turn it on. And I know it's exhausting. I get it. It was hard to figure out when to do laundry. This is not easy. And so I would say this to you. I appreciate everything that you're going through. I know it's difficult, and I know I'm asking you to do more. I get it. So as tired as you are, I also know that you're Calgarians and you're good people within the region, and you understand why we need to band together right now. So I have a lot of confidence that as we have stuck together in other crises, we will do so in this one as well. And I'll just keep reminding you every day that we need to do a little bit more to make sure that people in hospitals are safe and cared for, and to make sure that when emergency crews have to respond to a fire, that they can actually turn on that hydrant and it works. I don't have a simple solution for how we can get over the fatigue we have, but we must do it. We have to for the sake of our city and our region.
Thank you. CTV?
Mayor, this is for a reporter who's down in the area today. We got footage of folks washing their cars at a car wash just a few blocks away from the water main. If the city is in as dire straits as you say it is, why have you not moved to temporary closed businesses like car washes?
You know, I appreciate the question that a lot of Calgarians have about why are car washes allowed to be open. And although I'm not the technical expert in how car washes work, I have been briefed on the fact that many of these organizations use recycled water. And I think it's up to 85% of the water that's used in car washes is recycled. And I will say this, we are actively looking at what else we need to do in terms of putting restrictions in place. And I would say to Calgarians, do you really need to wash your car right now? There are two sides to the coin. If the business is open, do you actually have to go and wash your car? So we're looking at both sides of this, and I'll remind people, it's not going to hurt my feelings if there's a little bit of dirt on your car as you pass me.
Thanks. Maybe for Bouchard again, my colleague addressed the delay that's going to happen because of the incident last night, and you said you weren't able to put an exact timeline, but in terms of general fatigue, can you tell us if we're talking about a day or two, a week or two, like what's your estimate?
So in terms of fatigue, we rotate our crews. So this is not a question of...
in terms of to address the people's fatigue, I think it would help for them to know if we're talking about a day or two, like the population, in terms of delay.
Absolutely, and I think that what you're looking at is a day or two in terms of using the terminology that you've just given me. This is not adding a week.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
Just,
Go ahead.
we're just one more question about flushing out the line that broke, I guess, that's flushing out in the shoulder. Was there any way of recycling that water?
So we always look at opportunities to reuse the water, and that's part of the strategy that we're developing at this point in time. But I don't know if we have been able to identify all of the ways that we could capture and reuse that water.
Okay, last question.
Francois?
Yes.
Again, given what you said yesterday in terms of what caused this catastrophic failure, is it possible that there may never be found a cause in terms of one thing or another, given what you said yesterday in terms of the acoustic monitoring, that sort of thing? Is it possible that this just gave way? It happened. There is no cause other than something happened underground that we never will be able to know or see.
So when we do an inspection to determine cause, we're always doing that on the basis of likelihood or probability that a factor will play into the failure. So those will be assessed in terms of the likelihood or the probability that one of these elements that could lead to the failure was a greater or lesser contributor. It's quite rare that it's just one thing that ultimately leads to a failure. So we look at all the failure factors and look at under the best probable likelihood based on all the data that we collect, what would be the most factors that would contribute to that.
Okay. And just to follow up, I just had one other water restriction question. I'm not sure who's best placed to answer it, so I'll just throw it out there. That is, is there a threshold for the city to bring in mandatory restrictions on indoor water use, as in for businesses or for residents?
So we do have a bylaw that clearly articulates what restrictions we can impose. It's important to stress that we don't want to unnecessarily impact people's livelihoods, so we're working hard to take a measured approach in terms of the restrictions. However, we are prepared to take more firm measures if consumption levels require it.
The other thing that I will add to that is that 700 businesses were contacted directly in the city to help them understand why we needed them to cut their water usage. And I know the teams continue to be in contact with them. If they have questions about what they can do, we are here to answer those questions. If we continue to see an uptick, we will make those calls again and we'll make sure it's clear to people. In terms of indoor restrictions, you can imagine for households how hard that would be to monitor, and frankly how difficult it would be to regulate. So again, I'm appealing to Calgarians and their good side, and everyone has one, to please think about what you can do on your own. This doesn't have to be mandatory indoor restrictions. I think we are all good people who understand why we need to do this, and we continue to rely on people's desire to get through this together.
Oh, one final one. I'm sorry, just learning that people are washing their cars right near the site, that just kind of blows my mind. Is there some kind of investigation process to make sure that these car washes are actually recycling their water?
I would say that our teams that deal with businesses and their uses of water are probably well aware of which ones are using recycled water and which ones are not, and I imagine that they will be in contact with this type of business again to make sure that they understand what the public perception is right now and how they could be doing better in terms of saving water.
Thank you. I'll invite Chief Henry to close, and I'll just remind you, again, you're invited tomorrow morning, 8:30 live stream update from the mayor, and we'll be back at 2. Chief, you.
Thank you. Calgary is such an incredible city, and we have such an incredible community spirit. The city banded together and showed us on Saturday that we can hit 27% reduction. We can do that again, and if we just band together a little bit longer, we will go back to that 25% target that we have. So a thank you to all Calgarians, a thank you for businesses, for all of the visitors to our city, and to the incredible teams that are working around the clock to try to repair this for you.